Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1060 of our daily content grind. Before we begin, I have a very cheap plug to make because I got a new shirt design available. Check it out, check it out, check it out. Look at it. Look, it's so pretty. Look at how cool that is. So I haven't had a version of the logo that had a name attached to it. So I decided, hey, it's time to fix that. I debuted the shirt at MetroCon. People seem to like it, so now it is available in the link in the description below. You might see it in the merch shelf below the YouTube video, or if not, yeah, I'll leave a link in the description. But nevertheless, yeah, new merch out. Different shirt styles available, long sleeve, heavy, etc. Made sure there's a women's style in there too, and we also put it on a mug, stickers, a banner, which I didn't know you could do. So yeah. We got stuff, and I'm gonna be working on more stuff like this in the wings. I've got ideas and plans, but that's not what you're here for. Cheap plug done. We need to get to this year. It is the year 2005. And it's not only significant because it is the year that is very prominent thanks to the '86 movie, but also because it is Cybertron's year. Galaxy Force jumped the gun on all the heavy hitters, though, and all the rest of the heavy hitters are going to wait until 2006 to come out. You know, and this is a line where I thought, well, maybe alternators will take up the slack, but turns out there's not many alternators that came out in 2005 that weren't repaints or remolds. And some of them that did come out, I thought weren't all that great, but yeah, that does mean we get to talk a lot of Cybertron, which, you know, I'm never going to object to. So, let's get on with it. These are the top 10 Transformers of the year 2005. And we're going to start in a surprising place. So, in Energon, they started putting out brand new toys that were exclusive to the American market, outside of, like, random USA editions that came out in Japan. Point being, they were toys that were put out by Hasbro first, rather than Takara. And for the most part, they were good, but they never really seemed to fit in that well with the Takara design toys. More to the point, sometimes just seemed like less than the others. And Cybertron did the same thing. But then Armorhide. This is a cute little figure. This is just such a perfect little plastic ball of a Transformer. Turns into a tiny little flat-nosed semi-truck, which, remember, Optimus Prime hadn't been in a long time, so, you know, the vehicle was kind of free and available. It's a simple, fun, quick little transformation. I really like the idea that his chest is made of the upside-down front end of the truck. That's actually kind of rare, and it puts the bumper details up on the chest and looks really, really cool. On top of that, you have a little bit of extra feature with the Cyber Key because it fits on the crane weapon, but the flip-out missile rack from his chest is actually a pretty cool looking gimmick for a Scout class toy. On top of all this, he's just nicely articulated for the size class. This is a really surprising toy. I mean, I remember when this thing came out and everyone was immediately nuts for it. For good reason. It's a very solid little figure, and they got a few uses out of it. All of them are serviceable and really, really nice. Even the BotCon hover one is kind of cool. So yeah, Armorhide impressed a lot. Good on ya. You made the list. The Unicron trilogy was all about doing things new, but every now and then they would dip into the previous aesthetics and do something a little bit more classic in design. And that tended to do pretty well with the older fans who were looking for something a little bit more familiar. Enter Crosswise. One of my favorite Transformer names they never use anymore, by the way. Crosswise is the closest we got at the time to a real-world car in the main line, as it was designed after a Bugatti. And we hadn't even had, like, super cool, like, vehicles like that in the line in a long, long time. Comes together really, really cool, and I like the overall look. He's got kibble, but he's wearing it well, with the arm shield, the fins on the back. You know, door wings are not in an unfamiliar spot. All comes together in a really nice package. Mini, you know, key gimmick a little bit underwhelming. It's just flip up missile racks, pretty common for it. But what gets you is it's nicely articulated. It's very classic in design. I think this is one of those toys that told us if they ever went back to do the original Transformer designs again and refresh some of those G1 characters, this is kind of how we want them done. This is proof that it's absolutely doable. And yeah, we were really looking forward to what this toy meant for future releases, if anything else would follow this pattern, and you know what? Eventually it did. But this was such a really, really good start. Very cool look, very cool design, nice transformation and articulation level. All around, a return to form for a classic Transformer style. I'm going to put one here that I know most would not consider a very good toy, but this is a toy I defend every chance I get. For good reason, and you know why, okay? If you've heard me ramble on about this thing before. This is Dirt Boss, or Galaxy Force Inch Up, if you prefer. Number one, a very rare monster truck transformer, and a proper monster truck, elevation and everything. It does lend itself to being very back-heavy and kind of scrawny-limbed, I will give you that. I like the hot color scheme with the super bright purples and greens. It's very 90s, kind of like that. I like the unique asymmetric head design with the eye patch look. The thing that always impressed me about this toy, and why I think it deserves to be noteworthy regardless of if it's a good action figure or not, is the fact that the Cyberkey gimmick is so smart. So in vehicle mode, the Cyberkey slot will actually make the suspension stretch outward, which lowers him to the ground, making him more of a speed-looking vehicle, which is cool. That's a neat trick. When you transform him, that exact same Cyberkey is going to make his shoulder weapons flip out. That's actually really brilliant, to get one slot to do both gimmicks, two completely different gimmicks in robot and vehicle mode. That's really, really cool. Oh, and by the way, just in case you lose the key and you need to stretch him out and widen the wheels in order to get him into robot mode, don't worry, rotating the waist automatically triggers that as well. Very thoughtful in design. I love this toy. I absolutely love this toy, and I really wish we'd get something akin to it again. We likely will not, but I will still defend this toy every chance I get. And you know what? When you're doing top 10s of every year, this might be the last chance I get. So yeah, it's better than a lot of people gave it credit for. Cybertron stumbled upon an idea that I think is extremely good, and I'm shocked that we really haven't gotten much of it since. The idea of putting the same character out, but with a brand new toy with an upgraded body. You know, this was the Cybertron defense set of Autobots, and we are going to include Hotshot on this list. I really, really like the colors of Cybertron Hotshot. The only reason it didn't make it to the list when it first came out in 2004 in Japan is because, my God, the competition that year. But the overall toy coloring always worked for me. The vehicle here, he's not a racer anymore. You know, he is devoted to defensive Cybertron. He is an armored truck. And he does come together really well. I like how the robot mode looks a lot. But that's not the real reason why this toy is fun. So, a lot of panels are hidden on him for extra weaponry. So the legs have panels that flip around for extra missile heads. The shoulders have panels that flip down to reveal extra missile heads. His cannon from vehicle mode can flip over his shoulders, and then the Cyberkey will reveal more missile heads. He's got so many rockets to fire. It's so cool. Even in vehicle mode, you can open up the front bumper and reveal more missile heads. It's brilliant. He's just loaded with missile batteries, and it's a really, really cool thing to do with a bulky figure like this. Articulation is what keeps him from being any higher on the list, because this is otherwise a really, really cool figure. What I love is that through all of this, his accessory is a knife. You know, 30-odd missiles ready to fire, but he's going to carry a knife into battle because, you know, versatility. Point being, really, really solid toy. And another one that has plenty of repaint options to go get. I just got to re-familiarize myself with the Bakon one, which is really fun. But no, this is a fantastic toy. Lots of fun. Very clever figure. This is cheating. This is absolutely cheating, but it is something we need to touch on because it's something that will come up in future lists, and that is the idea of taking an existing figure and altering it size-wise, shrinking it, growing it, whatever you may see, or just revamping a toy at a different size, which is something that's going to become very common later on. We're going to talk about hybrid-style Galaxy Convoy. Now, technically, I could make this number 1 because it came out in 2005, and it's exactly like Galaxy Convoy. It's the same toy, just shrunken down. There's a little bit of die-cast added in. There's some swappable hands added in. If you want to be very technical about this, it is an improved version of Galaxy Force Optimus Prime. The only reason it doesn't make it any higher is because I don't feel like the toy's strengths lie in... I think the toy's strengths are exemplified by how big the first toy is and how chunky and buff it is. This one takes it a little bit closer to anime aesthetics as far as like proportions go, and it works fine. Like I said, it's the exact same toy. But I do ultimately like the larger one better, and I will admit it would be cheating to talk about it number 1 again. I'm not letting it breach the top 5 as a result. But hybrid style was this fascinating little microcosm of what could be in Transformers. It only went two releases, but it's a cool release if you can get your hands on it. Really, really unique and special. I will at least put it in the list because it is technically a new mold, though I will admit, oh man, I'm cheating. I'm cheating so bad here. I promise you everything from here on out is a completely new toy. Just completely new. Don't get mad at me. I'm not going to do it again. But we're going to talk about a few other interesting figures from Cybertron because they played around with a lot. Cybertron was a line for variety, and that wasn't just in vehicle modes. That was in robot modes too. Case in point, Crumplezone. Look at this lad. He's a robotic troll is what he is. Huge meat pounder arms, and then these tiny little legs. He's got gorilla proportions, which is why he became Dawn of Future Past, Optimus Primal. It's a really good-looking toy. I mean, yeah, I'm biased. There's 3 different shades of green in it, and you're going to accent it in gold. I mean, of course I'm going to lose my mind when you're going to give me a color scheme that looks like that. So, yeah, besides that, again, love the Cyber Key gimmick. It's the same gimmick in both modes, but it looks very different in both modes, especially turning that, rocket car into this, like, high-speed assault vehicle. And it's so even the vehicle mode, that 3-wheel design, it looks like a spaceship with wheels. It's a really cool look. Crumplezone is just unique all the way around, and it shows so much. Love the toy. Love the Dark Crumplezone version as well. A lot to love on this toy. Yeah, just screams to the uniqueness of the line. This one's a little bit more divisive, but I personally love this toy and how it comes together, so we are going to talk about it again. It might not be your favorite, but I love Cybertron Evac. Absolutely love this figure. On top of the fact that you've got a ton of gimmicks. You have the typical key makes missiles flip out type of gimmick, but you also have a rescue winch, which which is actually like geared with a motor and an actual string. It actually works. You have the spinning blades, which is the really good kind. Like Armada Cyclonus had like a trigger spin blade gimmick that kind of like after you pull the trigger, the blade stopped immediately. Here, it's a smooth motion. Once you press the button, they just keep spinning. And that's the way to do helicopter blade gimmicks on Transformers. On top of little things like, aside from like, I like the 2-tone blue and yellow color scheme. I like the overall level of articulation you're getting out of them. I like the visibility options because the tail end of the vehicle can actually form outward wings or a downward cape, depending on how you want him to look. On top of that, it's just such a clean looking vehicle mode once you get him transformed. He just looks so good all the way around. Like, I love this toy. I absolutely love this toy. Fun fact, mine is broken. There's a hinge on it that's busted on the chest. which is deeply upsetting. I need another version. Maybe the Towbot. The Towbot just straight up knocked this toy off and made it bigger. Point being, it's a fun toy. I really, really like it. I like how much it can do. I like the visibility options. Yeah, it's just all around really, really solid. We're back to the Cybertron defense team here. Unfortunately, though, Red Alert is not going to make the list because I find his toy to be way under-articulated for its size. And especially because like there really doesn't seem to be any reason to limit the articulation. There's plenty to work with there. But Scattershot. See, the weird thing is that all of the other Cybertron defense figures are articulation inferior to their previous toys, except for Scattershot, whose Scout class was pretty limited, especially in the legs. Here, makes up for it in spades. One of the most articulated toys in Cybertron, which is down to just how simplified his transformation engineering is. Transforming isn't a whole lot, not a whole lot to do on this one. What there is to do is just fun stuff. So on top of the fact that the truck, the missile tank thing is already a cool, rarely used vehicle mode in Transformers, you have two different Cyberkey gimmicks on both of the big missile launchers. One of them will make a larger missile, will make a launcher for larger missiles pop out, complete with a targeting scope. The other one will make a laser pop out. I love the weaponry options he provides. And speaking of, this is an extremely rare figure in this run of toys that actually has a blaster accessory. Have you noticed? Not a lot. Like, a lot of them are just, if they do have a blaster, it's a missile launcher of some kind. This is just like an old school gun that Transformers used to come with all the time. Kind of cool to see it back on a toy that is already ridiculously heavily armed. This is a really fun toy. Always been one of my favorites. Need to get it again at some point. But for now, yeah, good enough for the top 3. Now, I did say a lot of alternators this year didn't really impress me a lot. A lot of them weren't really all that great, if I'm being honest. Just my personal opinion. But most of them were retools and repaints and don't qualify for this list. But the one we are going to include is Prowl. Now, this was originally designed to be Red Alert, which is why the torso is a little bit different. However, I still think it leads to one of the better Alternator toys. Articulation range works on him very nicely. The proportions, he's a little scrawny-armed, a lot of Alternators tended to be. But the overall look is not bad. In fact, it's kind of interesting to see Prowl in one of the other traditional looks for a G1 Autobot. On top, the transformation is nice and smooth because I feel like they learned a lot from the previous Alternators, so it actually does like clean up its transformation scheme quite well. This was not one of the frustrating Alternators to mess with. It's just overall a really solid figure. On top of all the other things Alternators were really good at, like the engine becoming a weapon, so the hood actually opens up, just like on a real 1/24 scale car toy. The axles move left and right. You have rubber tires, so he rolls well. If you get the Japanese version, he's got die-cast parts. Alternators were just really good. What can I say? Just as a rock-solid representation of like a G1 character, yeah, it's doing things a little bit weird because Red Alert body, but Prowl is a really impressive toy, one of my favorites from the Alternators line. Now, when it comes to number 1 on these lists, it always comes down to bang for your buck. Who was the most impressive for the money that you spent, which is what allows me to put smaller figures up at the top and larger, more gimmick-loaded figures down at the bottom. But that said, this one gets in, and he qualifies for number 1, not only for bang for your buck and just being impressive, but also just being really cool looking. My favorite figure of 2005 is Sideways. So, you have the faction change gimmick with the key. Let's acknowledge that first and foremost. Cool to see here again. And it also makes the blades flip out for his arm weapon. So, all that's cool. What really gets you here is just how good the figure looks. The all translucent face with no visible eyes or mouth was incredibly unique at the time. Even now, there's only a handful of Transformers that look that way. It's an incredibly cool looking aesthetic to go for. Atop the fact, the colors, the black and the orange should really make me think Halloween. It does not. The silver and the muted gold are doing enough to pull me away from that. If you've got the Japanese version, you've got a little bit more mixed in to really make him pop. Beautiful toy. Absolutely beautiful toy. You've got options here. He's got his wings that act as blades. The blades can fit in both in one hand at once as like a big bow weapon. You can leave them mounted on the legs for armor. And then you get to the transformation, and the transformation on this thing is sublime. Like, it is perfect. And what you get is a really cool looking space shuttle that also is incredibly clean. There's no underkibble on this toy. In an age where we were always used to legs or arms dangling on the underside of any kind of jet or spaceship transformer, not to be found here. There's a reason this mold was used for sweeps later on. It's just all around one of the most impressive figures out of the entire Cybertron line, and one of the most well-remembered. Yeah, I know there are leaked listings for a Sideways in a line that's based on Cybertron. You have no idea how much I'm looking forward to it. To get this guy again in modern, upgraded design aesthetic, I'm really curious to see how they pull it off. But for 2005, I would call it the best Transformer we got. So there we go. Interesting year since we didn't have any big, heavy, gimmick-loaded toys to pick from, so it lets something of an underdog slip into the #1 slot, but I think a very deserved one. So, as usual, you are free to debate the list in the comments below. My opinion will be drastically different from yours, but that's another year counted for. We are going to be entering interesting times, because 2006, it's the tail end of Cybertron and the Classics line. And after that's when it gets really crazy. So, join me again for this next week, and as always, I will see you next time.